We've got a reading this morning on voters' reactions to President Trump's address to Congress last night. CBS News contributor and Republican strategist, that's Frank Luntz, invited California voters to take part in a focus group. There were 11 men and 10 women. They ranged in ages from 25 to 69 years old. 11 in the group voted for Donald Trump in the election. 9 voted for Hillary Clinton, and 1 did not vote for either one of them. They all watched the president's speech together and talked about their reactions.
We did watch what he said tonight. Tell me what you thought was better. What exceeded your expectations?
More rational. He was conciliatory. He acted presidential. So I think that's a very, very good first step.
What else?
I really like the fact he brought everyone together, Democrats and Republicans, regarding veterans and taking care of our veterans. That's not a political issue. I think, regardless of what you think, these are people who have served in the military. They're down on their luck financially, with their health.
He did not address the problem with the VA. The VA is not doing anything. Doing very little for vets.
And he should, and we all want to see it change. I think that's the point. There has to be a change, and it's for both sides.
I do believe he will take an action to change it.
He went from the hate crimes, which I was concerned he would talk about, and he did, unity, and then he went on to about, how to try to come up with solutions to replace.
But then on the same hand that he talked about the hate crimes and the desecration of the Jewish cemeteries, which is horrible, he neglected to mention the desecration of the Indian burial grounds with the pipeline.
Right. He asked for cooperation.
Yes, it does.
He delivered on his promises that he will follow. And he said, my job is to be the president of all Americans.
Words.
Can you ask for anything?
Did you deliver that tonight?
Yes, he did.
How is it going to be tomorrow?
Tonight.
What are we going to see tomorrow? And I think that's what we need to be watching for, because up until now, we haven't seen anything like this. And he spoke in broad platitudes. Who doesn't want our kids to be safe and healthy and have a good education?
Yes, but he did. Hold on.
Where are the specifics?
Well, Frank Luntz joins us from Los Angeles. Frank, the president, for the most part, is getting rave reviews for his speech last night, including a lot of people picking up on what the man in your focus group said, that he sounded presidential and looked presidential. What was the overall response from your group?
Yes, out of the 21 people, 16 out of 21 said that he exceeded expectations, and only one person there who spoke in that little clip felt that he fell short. And the reason why is that he seemed to appeal universally to Republicans and Democrats, to treat the country as a whole rather than looking at individual groups. Our Trump people felt that he kept his promises and hasn't backed down, and our Clinton people felt that he is trying, that he is making an effort to reach across the aisle. And what's fascinating to me is that they watched the Democratic response as well, and they were rather critical because they thought that was too partisan. But one more thing, Gayle. It's interesting that they always talk about what the president didn't say, even though the speech lasts, 45, 50 minutes. So often the American people are listening for what they don't hear, and that's where they complain about.
Frank, your focus group did something called a dial test during the speech. The red line indicates Republican-leaning voters, and the green line indicates Democratic-leaning voters. The higher the line, the more favorable the reaction. So let's see how the group responded when President Trump discussed a $1 trillion infrastructure investment plan.
To launch our national rebuilding, I will be asking Congress to approve legislation that produces a $1 trillion investment in infrastructure of the United States, financed through both public and private capital, creating millions of new jobs. This effort will be guided by 2 core principles: Buy American and Hire American.
Okay, Frank, so there was a lot of action in the lines there. How did you read them, and what do you make of that?
So I asked them, and that's exactly what they're looking for. And in fact, Donald Trump is at his best when he's focused on economic populism. The infrastructure has significant support among Republicans, provided that it provides accountability, and it has significant support among Democrats, provided that it supplies American jobs. So it works with both sides. And you saw those lines jump. That's exactly what the American people want to hear from him.
The president also emphasized immigration and border security again last night. Frank, let's watch how that played out on the dial test.
At the same time, my administration has answered the pleas of the American people for immigration enforcement and border security. By finally enforcing our immigration laws, we will raise wages help the unemployed, save billions and billions of dollars, and make our communities safer for everyone.
A much more divided response there, Frank.
Exactly. And it highlights the challenge that Donald Trump has, that on some of these issues, such as building the wall, they are still polarizing. And even though he had the chance, unedited, to communicate to the American people the principles behind immigration, health care, and some of the key issues, even the communication of principles, when they are talking, when he's using language from the campaign, Democrats and Clinton voters turn it down because it reminds them of what they didn't like about him. Our country is still heavily polarized, heavily divided. Donald Trump took a huge step last night in bringing the country together, but it doesn't happen in just one speech. They want to see exactly what he's going to do next.
Okay, he also talked about Obamacare. A lot of people find that polarizing. Let's take a look at that.
Remember when you were told that you could keep your doctor and keep your plan. We now know that all of those promises have been totally broken. Obamacare is collapsing, and we must act decisively to protect all Americans.
All right, Frank, those lines very far apart, and I know all of your group were California voters, but you think it reflects the country. How so? First, react to what we're seeing with these lines.
Well, it is polarized, and Republicans responded favorably to much of what Donald Trump said. What I found interesting was on the economic issues, the Democrats were almost as high as the Republicans, and on things like what happened in some of our major cities, some of the hate crimes. There were even moments in the speech when the Democrats were more favorable towards Donald Trump than the Republicans. That said, it is still going to be difficult to get beyond the campaign. It's now been 5 months since the election, and the hostility of Democrats towards Donald Trump has not dissipated. His tone, his demeanor was applauded by people in our session yesterday. They felt that this is the first time that he's presidential, but several of them mentioned, what is he going to tweet today? What is he going to say tomorrow? He has changed the dynamic as we know it, Gayle. The question is, can he continue day after day?
Frank Luntz, we know there will be a lot of polling in our future on that. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.